Good Tuesday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock, time for Sports4CLE. Browns with a player's day off, getting ready to play the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo on Sunday. A game, again, they need to have, especially after not getting it done in Miami on Sunday. Let's welcome in Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, Kay Cabot. Mary Kay, what went wrong, do you think, with the Dolphins game down in Miami?
You know, I think so many things went wrong in that game, but one of the things that did go wrong was the fact that they just were unable to impose their will upon the Dolphins the way that they wanted to. Remember, Jacoby Brissett talked about that, how they had done that against the Bengals, how they came out with all this energy and this life, and they were just ready to run through a wall when they faced the Bengals. And it just wasn't the same thing. Coming off the bye, they sort of didn't have that same head of steam. And the Dolphins at home were really ready for that football game. And I think once they started to run on the Browns, not just run around them, but run right through them, I think it really just kind of had them on their heels and took them out of their game, and they were never able to recover.
And again, it's this is a team is constructed with Jacoby Brissett. They want to get the lead and play from ahead, and that kind of opens everything up, correct?
Yeah, and it looked good from the start, right? I mean, that amazing kickoff return with Jerome, followed by that first 38-yard pass to Donovan Peoples-Jones, and the touchdown on the opening drive. It seemed like they were ready to go, but it was almost sort of all downhill from there. And, you know, they just couldn't get enough done offensively. They were not able to run the ball. They got sort of beat up front. I mean, they were outplayed in the trenches, which doesn't usually happen. Didn't help that Wyatt Teller couldn't be out there. He only lasted into, you know, the second drive before he came out. And then Jed Wills turned his ankle. And they just did not have a good game in terms of being able to block for the run and pass block. And then conversely, they just were not able to stop that run. And then that enabled them to also do whatever they wanted in the passing game. So it just was a collective meltdown, and it was unfortunate for them. I didn't really think they were going to necessarily win the game. I picked them to win because I thought the defense was going to come through. I really thought maybe they would, but you know, I didn't feel really good about that pick. It was sort of like, they might be able to pull this off. But even when the schedule first came out, I think we all thought that, oh, you know, that's probably going to be a loss when they go down to Miami. But it was the way in which they lost that I think leaves everyone with such a bad taste in their mouth.
Yeah, you know, again, mentioned Players' Day off yesterday. John Johnson talked about the inconsistency and the issues on the defense and just trying to get them fixed.
I think it's just getting experience, getting reps underneath your belt. You know, each week presents different challenges, and you kind of have to learn how to morph, you know, as a defense. And, you know, some weeks it's going to be heavy pass, some weeks it's going to be heavy run. Obviously, we put some stuff out there on tape that's going to keep popping up. So I think, like, each week you have to learn how to morph and adjust. And I think, you know, we haven't really hit that point where we can understand that fully. And, you know, if we don't, you know, it's going to keep happening. So I think we just got to learn how to, like, adapt to what's happening throughout the game, you know, at halftime, make adjustments. And, you know, it might take a guy that's not necessarily a run stopper to become a run stopper. You know, it might take a guy that's not necessarily in pass coverage to have the drop in coverage. You know, that's the nature of the game. So I think until then, you know, we're going to keep having these problems. I think we're still hanging in tight. You know, there hasn't been any, you know, bickering, you know, anything like that. But I think it's, you know, definitely you got to look ourselves in the mirror as a group and right the ship and get this thing going. You know, we're running out of time. I think we're past the midway point now. So it's time to step it up.
Yeah, and Mary Kay, what he's talking about is copycat league, so you can be sure the type of run that the Dolphins went is being dissected, and the Browns will see more of that.
Yeah, and they have seen it. I mean, teams that haven't traditionally run the ball this season are running the ball on them, and they just have been powerless to stop it. And JJ's right. Guys that traditionally haven't been run stoppers have to become that, and vice versa. Guys that really haven't maybe dropped into coverage have to get better at that. So everyone needs to pick up the pace. And I think just in general, guys are trying to say that they want to play a more attacking, aggressive brand of defense. They want to play faster. They want to be more physical. And I think you'll see that in Buffalo.
Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. As you might guess, we have a lot of them. Here's the first of the voicemail of Truth and Reasons.
This is Steve Landon. Just curious, has anybody noticed that the Browns defense only seems to play with intensity against their opponents in the division? That's something I noticed. I don't know if it means anything. I love the show.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Intensity is something that's really tough to measure. There's a familiarity there, I think.
Well, I do think there is something to be said for the fact that they can get themselves really up for Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson or even the Steelers. You know, those division games have heightened intensity, but they need to find a way to bring that to every single game. They need to bring it on the road. They need to bring it at home. And, you know, maybe they just need some guys on the team that are a little bit more vocal. There are plenty of guys on the team that are good leaders, but not necessarily really big, fiery, vocal leaders. So maybe they need a little bit more of that. I don't know. They're going to need something to go up to Buffalo. And now I'm hearing that there could be a little bit of a blizzard going on. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, up to a foot of snow potentially. All right. Can they get the defensive issues corrected? We've talked about it. It seems like they correct this and then something else pops up and then that gets it's kind of cascaded on each other.
Well, I think it's been hard because there's been a lack of continuity in personnel on the defense this season. Every time you turn around, somebody else is out for 3 games or 4 games. Denzel Ward, JOK, Jadeveon Clowney. Miles wasn't himself for the first 3 games after his accident. Anthony Walker Jr. out for the year. Jacob Phillips out for the year. And I just think that in addition to a lot of the young guys not stepping up and having the kind of seasons the Browns expected them to have, they've also had a revolving door in the lineup, and that just hasn't helped matters at all.
Yeah, and so, there was a big thought, defensive tackle. Adam Schefter tweets this out. The Browns were not one of 8 teams that put in a waiver claim on Jerry Tillery, former first-round pick that was released by the Chargers. It was Vegas, Detroit, Carolina, Indy, San Francisco Jets, Giants, and Kansas City. But the Browns did sign Ben Still off the Dolphins practice squad. A tweet that shows his RAS, relative athletic score. It's a ranking of 1 to 10. He ranks a 9.34. It's a guy that's pretty athletic, a big guy that's pretty athletic. Again, Mary Kay, the Browns are trying to find some answers that might help at that defensive tackle position. There are no wrong answers, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're just going to have to keep trying to throw some bodies at it and keep trying to bring in some maybe new faces and see what they can do. It's difficult to completely change anything up at this point in the season. I mean, they're coming off the bye week too, so you would have anticipated a better performance coming off the bye. So that also makes it very, very disappointing that they were not able to find a way to adjust to their run defensive woes over that bye week. And, again, it's just going to get tougher as they go along here towards these last 8 games of the season.
All right. I think I know the answer to this. How big of a concern for you is it with this run game? It's kind of reared its head again. We thought you saw the Ravens and the Bengals and you thought, okay, maybe. And then it was like those 2 games didn't exist on Sunday.
You mean in terms of the Browns running game itself?
Run defense, the run defense game.
Defense,
yeah.
Their run defense, because they struggled running the ball too. So, and that was a little bit of a surprise and somewhat unfortunate. But yeah, so they've got to find something that they can do. I don't think it helped matters that like a JOK couldn't play in that game. They kind of hoped maybe he would be ready, but he was not ready. Actually, he stepped foot back into practice on Friday, but just was not ready to play in the game with his knee injury. Hopefully for them, he'll be ready to play this week. But that hasn't helped them at all. He's supposed to be their number 1 linebacker and their sideline to sideline playmaker, their fast, speedy guy that can, maybe try to help with some of those things over the middle that the Miami Dolphins were hitting them with. And, Yeah, so I don't know if they'll have him back, but if they do, that should help. There's been a lot of talk about how the Browns are not built really, to stop a bigger running game. So that's something that, the teams are going to try to take advantage of and capitalize on. I'm sure the Bills are drawing it up now as we speak.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break. We'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. What about the Browns and Anthony Schwartz? What are they doing? How are they trying to work with him? Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yes, this is the Wolfman calling. I think the Cleveland Browns need to revamp their linebacking. They need to get some people in there. You got too many people hurt, and they need people now. They need to get some, forget the rookies. The rookies are not going to help us right now. They need somebody out there that is going to draw and destroy the running attack from the other team. And this is the Wolfman calling. Ow!
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Mary Kay, we talked to it a little bit. Linebacking room is just beat up. You know, Walker out for the year, Phillips out for the year, JOK banged up, hadn't been healthy much of the year. At this point in time, I don't know that you're going to be able to find anybody that's a veteran that would be a significant upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, they were able to trade for Deion Jones. And, you know, that's sort of a higher caliber, level player that they acquired within the season. But those guys don't come around very often. And, you know, I don't think there are tons of them hanging around right now waiting for somebody to pick up the phone and call them. So I don't know that too many reinforcements are on the way in that regard. They're just going to have to try to do more with what they have. And we actually saw Jordan Kunasik come out and make some plays in this game. Sione Takitaki has been doing a nice job. And they're just going to have to rally the troops and get more guys playing at a really high level.
Again, I know you've addressed this, your Hey Mary Kay column, where our viewers or readers get to ask you a question. How much blame does Andrew Berry share in the Browns' struggles, do you think?
You know, I think that, that he has to take a slice of it just the same way everybody else does. It's part coaching, it's part personnel right now, and it's part players. So everyone has to take responsibility and own what's going on right now. But in terms of Andrew Berry, you know, I think he probably is going to have to look at how they have constructed the team and did they leave themselves a little bit short at defensive tackle and linebacker. Now, it's not like they didn't try. they did think that Jordan Elliott was going to really elevate his game this year and do some really, really great things. We heard Chris Kiffin talking about him, raving about him. Myles Garrett raved about him. And we just really haven't necessarily seen him jump off the page the way that, that they still expect him to. And then Perrion Winfrey, I mean, he was a healthy scratch, or at least a semi-healthy scratch in this past game for the third time this season. And at this point, you would expect that your fourth-round pick in Perrion Winfrey would be contributing in a meaningful way to your defensive tackle rotation. That has not happened, and so that hasn't helped matters. And then we talked about already some of the issues at linebacker and the guys that are out for the season, and it's just kind of been a recipe for disaster.
This is another one from the Hey Mary Kay. What are the Browns doing with Anthony Schwartz? And are they trying to kind of develop him and integrate him behind the scenes? What's going on with Anthony Schwartz?
Well, once again, he's a third-round pick. They have not been ready to give up on him. They really like his speed. They see things in him in practice that leads them to believe that he is worth hanging on to. He hasn't had an opportunity to show it yet on the field. And I think there's some thinking that perhaps when Deshaun Watson gets back and he has his exceptional arm talent and is able to really take advantage of the deep ball, that perhaps maybe Anthony Schwartz will come around a little bit. Now, nobody knows if that's going to happen. Nobody knows if that's true. But when you draft somebody in the third round, you expect them to eventually become a starter for you. If they don't, it's really a big disappointment. And so I think they want to give him an opportunity to see what he can do when Deshaun gets back.
Yeah, that's fair enough. This from the Bleacher Report. 3 takeaways from the Browns' Week 10 loss to the Dolphins. Number 3, it's time for Joe Woods to go. Number 2, the Browns must invest in defensive line in the offseason. And number 1, the Jadeveon Clowney experiment must end in 2023. Mary Kay, I think you know me well enough. I'm not a guy that calls for guys' jobs. Something has to get tweaked with that defense, though. It's just not. You look at it and you would expect, with the talent that's there, it to be much better.
Yeah, like I said before, though, I mean, if you look at what's gone on and the lack of continuity and take Denzel out for 3 games, and Denzel was not playing well when in the first half of the season, and nobody really expected that, okay? Nobody expected that Denzel was going to struggle the way that he did, but he missed almost all of training camp with a hamstring injury, so he really was not himself. Again, JOK has not really been the player this year that they expected him to be for a number of reasons, including this knee injury. So they thought he was going to take his game to another level. And they thought that about a lot of young guys, Grant Delpit. And Grant is really starting to come around now. He had, a fairly decent game in Miami. He's been getting stronger the last couple of weeks, but he got off to a little bit of a slow start as well. So I don't know if you can blame all of that on Joe Woods. I think people just find him to be an easy target, and I'm just not in that camp.
Fair enough. Defensive line, is that an area you think they change their thinking a little bit? Obviously you can't do it mid-season, but do they change the way they're thinking about the defensive tackle position and maybe even in the edges?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney is just a year-by-year thing. It's, he marches to his own drummer. He decides late what he wants to do. He'll take a look at this team and decide if he thinks it's going to be a winner and that he wants to be here. And if Deshaun Watson looks like he's going to be successful, then I think that he would want to come back, and I think they would want him back. In terms of the defensive tackles, I think they're going to have to add to the pile. I mean, they might now have to look at Perrion Winfrey and say, okay, maybe he's just not going to come around as quickly as they thought he was going to. Maybe Jordan isn't exactly what they thought he was going to be. And, and I do think that that's a position they're going to have to take a look at.
All right, before we go to break, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yes, this is Charles Boykin calling from Dayton, Ohio. A longtime Browns fan. When Jim Brown started playing, I started watching the Browns. We need defensive tackle help. Everyone in the league has 325 pounds or more defensive tackles, and they stop the run. We have not been able to stop the run all year long, basically because we have 300-pound defensive tackles. They're too light. They get pushed off the line of scrimmage. The linebackers can't even see to cover the holes because the defensive tackles are being pushed back into their face. So that's why the gaps are wide open. By the time they see the running back, he's already out the hole and down into the secondary. But we need to do something next year about getting bigger defensive tackles. The Miami Dolphins had a fifth-rounder that was playing against us this Sunday that weighed about 325 pounds. We need to use our picks this coming up year to get bigger help on the defensive line. Thank you.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Mary Kay, we talked a little bit about that. They tried that a couple of years ago with Andrew Billings. He opted out during the COVID year and then wasn't able to make an impact. So bigger is not always better.
No, I mean, the Browns aren't really built that way, and they're going to have to determine if they need to have some guys like that on the roster, that in the event that you have some jumbo teams that you're going to be facing, or some big running teams that you're going to be facing, they have to be able to counter that. They're sort of built for speed and for chasing around a Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and doing those kinds of things with all their receivers. But they have to be ready to stop the run as well, and that will be a point of emphasis.
Mary Kay Cabot and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, take a closer look at the Bills. Browns getting ready to head up to Buffalo, trying to get one against the Bills. Sports4CLE will be right back.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, love the show, but let's just call it what it is. The Browns suck. Jimmy Haslam doesn't care about the product that he puts on the field because this man does not care about winning, because if he did, there would have been changes made. You had a week to get ready. Joe Woods, they've been calling for his head all year. Kevin Stefanski looked like a deer in headlights. For all except for that first drive, Cleveland did nothing. Cleveland couldn't stop a junior varsity football team yesterday. Name me one player in this Barry Stefanski draft era who's a playmaker, who's a game changer. Don't worry, I'll wait. So none of his draft picks are worth anything. The last good draft picks we had came from John Dorsey, which was Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb. Denzel Ward's not worth the money you paid him. Can't keep him on the field. And I'm tired of everybody saying, oh, well, we don't have our quarterback. You know what? We got beat by a couple backups this year, so there's no excuses. This is the NFL. Jimmy Haslam, it starts with you. If you really want to win, you can make this team a winner. Go get some people who know how to win, but instead he just cares about raising the ticket prices and not putting a product that's worth the ticket prices on the field. I love my Browns, but it's hard to watch after every game, and it's hard to watch how our front office does nothing to fix the problems. If it was up to me, everybody would go, because if you don't start fixing things now, Miles is going to want out next. Then all your great players who you get these contracts to, they're not going to want to be in Cleveland either. So tired of losing. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Mary Kay fan base, a little fired up. The one thing I don't think you can question is Jimmy Haslam and the ownership wanting to win. They've paid the money to extend guys that can play. They've maybe overpaid in some instances. It's not easy. And the one thing that fans don't realize, you need a quarterback, you need a GM, and you need a head coach. Those are the three things you need, and you can't constantly change them to get them aligned and together.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I really don't think that Jimmy Haslam would have gone out and taken on the enormous controversy and risk of Deshaun Watson and paid him $230 million if he didn't want to win. The Haslam family, they want to win. They've struggled to get it right. They've struggled to get that alignment that you're talking about, and they've certainly struggled to figure out the quarterback situation. But we cannot accuse them of not wanting to win, because I think that they put that above all else in acquiring Deshaun Watson and bringing him onto this football team. So I don't think that's it. I do think that, they have to see what happens when Deshaun comes back and what other pieces and parts they need. I still think they left themselves short in the pass catching realm. I believe they need another Pro Bowl caliber pass catcher out there. Most excellent quarterbacks have a number of really, really good receivers. And the Browns have some. I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones has exceeded expectations, and he's doing a really nice job. And David Njoku is considered their second receiver, and he's having a really nice season. He's injured right now, though. But I still think that they are short one other Pro Bowl caliber receiver, and we'll find out if that's true when Deshaun comes back.
Yeah, I would agree. You can say a lot of things about the ownership group. They really want to win, and they want to get it right. This is from the Hey Mary Kay as well. How do you think the locker room handles Deshaun Watson return? Everybody has kind of rallied around Jacoby Brissett. Just your thoughts.
Yeah, you know what? I think it will be a seamless transition, in part because, first of all, this is the most important part, that Deshaun Watson and Jacoby Brissett get along really, really well. There will be no tension in terms of this dividing the locker room because those two guys have really stuck together. Jacoby Brissett knew what his role was. He knew coming in that he was supposed to basically keep the seat warm until Deshaun got back. And he's done a nice job of that. That was exactly what he's supposed to do. But he's not fighting to keep the job when Deshaun comes back. That's just not been in the cards. It's been made clear, for the past how many ever weeks or so, that Deshaun was going to be the starter December 4th in Houston. I wrote it a long time ago. Andrew Berry actually came out and said it at the press conference a couple of weeks ago, the bye-week press conference. And so that's how it is. So, and then the other part of that is that Deshaun built up a lot of goodwill chips with his teammates in the offseason and in the preseason, and also banked a lot of reps. So I think he should be ready to go.
All right, we've alluded to this. This is the forecast coming up for Buffalo this weekend. There is a winter storm warning issued for the Buffalo area. They're saying it could be the first snow game of the year for the NFL. Up to potentially a foot plus of snow is what could be on tap for the Browns and the Bills up in upstate New York. What are some of the things you're watching out for in that game and some of the keys? We keep saying this. Browns got to start putting some wins together here.
Well, once again, I mean, if the snow and all of that is going to be a factor in this game, if it's going to be a weather game, then you really want to be able to run the ball. This is where you really want to be able to rely on Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And I'll tell you what, I think the Dolphins are a better team than people gave them credit for heading into that game. I mean, that was a pretty darn good defense, and they were good in the trenches. They were able to do what they needed to do from an offensive line and defensive line standpoint. But the Browns are going to have to run the game this weekend if it's a weather game. And, they just can't have what happened last week happen to them again. And if it does, then they've got to go to some kind of a change-up. It didn't help, again, that Wyatt Teller didn't last throughout the game. It didn't help that Jed Wills turned his ankle in the game. Hopefully for them, they'll have Wyatt back this game, going back to Buffalo. So, he'll be fired up for this game, but they're going to really need him.
So the Bills are a team that has turned the ball over quite a bit. I think they're tied for the second most turnovers in the NFL. They also create turnovers defensively. this is another topic we keep hitting on. How disappointed do you think Kevin Stefanski and the Browns are that they haven't been able to create the turnovers defensively?
Well, once again, it's a statistic that will come back to haunt you. They are 0-6 in games in which they have not won the turnover battle. 0-6, okay? So, you can do a lot of things right, but if you're turning the ball over, you're going to lose the football game. Conversely, you can do some things wrong, but if you're taking it away and winning the turnover battle, you're still probably going to win the game. And in Miami, Nick Chubb had a rare fumble. They lost the turnover battle. They couldn't get those takeaways. So that's probably been one of the most disappointing parts of the defense, is that they're not taking it away. And then offensively, they're giving it away too much.
Before I let you go, congratulations are in order. Tomorrow, Mary Kay Cabot will be inducted into the Press Club of Cleveland's Hall of Fame for journalism. So, Mary Kay, congratulations. Great honor, well-deserved. You're somebody that's always fair, always honest, and we appreciate your time and insight. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Again, Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter, headed to the Press Club of Cleveland's Hall of Fame, inducted tomorrow. As always, Mary Kay, great stuff. Thanks so much for the time and insight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, make sure you check her out. Page of the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Browns coverage with Mary Kay Cabot. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we will be joined by Casey Kinnamon from Dawg Pound Daily. We continue to talk Browns. We'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I see a lot of people criticizing the Haslams for their decision-making as far as coaches and general managers and this and that, and how they're to blame for the problems that the Browns may be having. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't necessarily think that it's the Haslams to blame. They've kind of taken their hands off and let Andrew Berry do the decision-making. I don't think he's really done a bad job, but everybody wants to run him or Stefanski or whatever time. I think that the defense rules the day when it comes to these decisions, and when your defense puts your offense in bad positions or your team in bad positions, that can definitely convey itself into losing football. I mean, Joe Woods is obviously atrocious, and whatever he's doing is counterproductive for the team. So I guess I'm trying to say is that I don't think that the Haslams are doing a terrible job lately. Maybe early on, but not lately. And I think it's just a matter of making some decisions that are tough decisions to help the team produce and be a better team on the field. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Casey Kinnamon, Dog Pound Daily. Casey, I can't argue. I think the Haslams struggled early. You know, I think they made some rash decisions in coaching realm, which is one of the reasons I would like to see the head coach stay. My issue with the defense is you went out and you got guys that have speed and talent and skill, and you're not letting them do what they do well.
Yeah, I agree with the caller. I feel like the Haslams have kind of let this season ride. Barry's kind of handled the day-to-day, and a lot does fall on coaching. There's no doubt about that. But also Barry's not without blame in all of this. You know, it's like there was a gross miscalculation about how other teams would approach playing the Browns, and they didn't address some things that were obvious needs that they thought they could just get by with. And as the seasons progressed, you know, here we are. They're getting just beat up right up the middle. And this team is just disappointing because it doesn't. The sum of the parts isn't equaling what it should. You know, like you said, there are talents, there are pocket of talents all across the team, but it's just not coming together. And I think that points to coaching and needing a new voice, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and again, just my opinion. It's like the puzzle, and we're missing. You know, we've got all this puzzle laid out, and there's a big piece here that's not there, and they keep looking for it, and they can't find it. It's
under a table somewhere. We're never going to find it.
Or the dog.
To get a new puzzle, it feels like.
Or the dog ate it. All right. Kevin Stefanski talked about the run game issues in this defense yesterday when he met with the media.
Tackling, we have to always have to be better. It's tackling sometimes is technique, sometimes is getting 11 people around the ball, and then gap integrity. Every defense that is played, you know, don't care man, zone, 3D, 2D, you have gap integrity, and you got to stay true to that. You know, so we got to work hard to make sure that we're where we need to be, and then we got to make sure we're giving our guys a plan that they can go out and execute and play fast. We've done it at times. So much of run defense is when you're playing fast and you're playing physical. Certainly I've seen that at times, but we just did not do that yesterday and got to do it more consistently.
Yeah, and Casey, we thought that the run game issues and the defensive issues were kind of solved, and there was progress in Baltimore and Cincinnati, and it was not good. It was almost 500 yards of offense allowed against the Dolphins. And the Dolphins were a little bit better than I thought they were up front, both sides of the ball.
Yeah, the offensive line for the Dolphins wasn't billed as a strength of theirs. I'll tell you what, they blew us off the ball. Guys could not stay in their gaps. And a lot of what Stefanski's talking about, you know, he didn't say the words, but when he says get 11 guys to the ball, it's want to, you know, and you didn't see a lot of want to. Seen a little bit out of Grant Delpit, but other than that, guys weren't filling their lanes, and nobody on this team outside of the cornerbacks actually wrap up when they tackle. They're just throwing shoulders out there, and in this league, when the talent's equal like that, that's not enough to get these guys down. And even if they get tackled, they're falling forward when they do, you know? And that's the difference between getting off the field in third down and having a fresh set of downs and just getting ground down the way that they did.
All right, this is from Daryl Ryder. It's kind of interesting. So the Browns are outscoring opponents 48-26 in the first quarter, and then they've been outscored 76-61 in the second, 44-39 in the third, and they've given up 92 points in the fourth quarter. And that right there is the reason that this is a 3-6 football team.
Yeah, I think those first quarter stats, a lot of that kind of goes along with how good the Browns are on opening drives, on these scripted drives. You know, they're constantly like they get the ball first and they're going to score, and usually it's 7. But then there's in-game adjustments, and then the other defense kind of catches up. The offense has a couple series where they don't score, and then the other offense gets momentum, and then it kind of leads to those numbers that you're seeing right there. The third quarter is kind of close, but you look at that fourth quarter, 92 points to 69, like that's very telling right there, you know. And you're not, to quote the great Mike Singletary, can't win with it, can't do it. You can't be giving up 92 points in the fourth quarter. That's crunch time. That's when guys have to earn their paychecks. And And right now, neither side's really getting it done in that fourth frame.
Yeah, it's been a disappointing season, without question. All right, Week 11 power rankings and hot seat update from ESPN.com. So Chiefs 1, Eagles 2, Vikings 3, their top 3. Browns at 23. You see the 3-6 record. Who's on the hot seat in the preseason? Kevin Stefanski. Temperature of the hot seat right now, lukewarm. Unless the bottom completely falls out, Stefanski's job probably isn't in jeopardy yet. But the seat is warming up and could be on the line in Watson's first full season in 2023. Let me take this a different road there. How important are the final 6 games where Deshaun Watson will be the quarterback for Kevin Stefanski and this staff?
Absolutely massive, especially for Stefanski to kind of show what he's able to do with an elite quarterback like Deshaun Watson. They have to, that first game against Houston, I don't expect them to come out of the gates firing on all cylinders, but that's something that needs to happen over those last 6 games. They need to show what can be. And I'm with you. I don't think Stefanski's in any danger of losing his job this season. I think he's going to get a full season with Watson to show what he can do. But Stefanski has a lot of tough things to do over this offseason. He's probably going to have to say goodbye to a lot of people he's brought along with him on this head coaching journey. And that can't be easy to do. These guys are friends on and off the field. You believed in them and gave them a job, but at the end of the day, some guys aren't getting it done. And if he doesn't do that, that could pull him down just as quick as anything else.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a disappointing season, and when that happens, changes are coming without question. Casey Kinnamon and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we will head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Take a look at the highest graded Browns from the Dolphins game. You're going to be surprised at some of the names. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Maybe cliche, but there's no I in team. The only identity that matters is we. The collective effort to love thy neighbor is needed now more than ever. The responsibility behind pronouns such as I, me, and mine impact we, us, and ours. So understand that you make all the difference in the team. He, him, her, or she can't disturb our peace, since we control our destiny as student athletes. This is the power of pronouns.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yeah, this is John from Sandusky. Sunday's performance from the defense was absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible, horrible, horrible. Joe Woods has been on the chopping block for the last 2 years. Go after Greg Williams. Greg Williams performed like a monster when we had him. We need a defensive coordinator like Greg Williams to rule our defense the rest of this year and next year. We need Greg Williams. Thank you for your time, and you have a great day.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Casey, do you know what Greg Williams is doing these days? I do. He's the defensive coordinator for the DC Defenders. Not in the NFL, not in the USFL, in the XFL. Can we please stop with the Greg Williams?
I mean, I get it. He gives people the warm and fuzzy feeling because they think of Greg and his speeches and Hard Knocks, and then his stint as the interim coach where they went 5-3. But the bottom line is, like, in that final season in 2018 that he was here, that defense wasn't good. They were 30th in the league in yards allowed per game with 393. I think they were 31st in rushing touchdowns allowed and average, 24.5 points a game given up. They weren't good. But it's the natural inclination, like, you go from one to an opposite. So this team went from a football guy as a GM with Dorsey to Andrew Berry. You went from a Freddie Kitchens to, Kevin Stefanski. So, like, Joe Woods is more of a laid-back guy, and they're not getting it done. So the natural inclination is go back to fire and brimstone, which is Greg Williams. But, like, just bringing a guy in like that just because he has that kind of attitude, that by itself doesn't get the job done. And if Greg Williams was, at the peak of his football intellect right now, he'd be in the NFL and not coaching in the XFL.
And it's a mismatch with what else is there, and you're trying to align things. I get it. I want a more aggressive defense as well. I'm not sure Greg Williams is what I would sign up for, though. Let's take a look at the highest graded players from the Browns, Week 10 against the Dolphins. So Halate Froholt is your top-ranked one. Grant Delpit, 2. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 3rd. Ethan Posick, 4th. And Myles Garrett is number 5. So that will tell you how much of a struggle the game was against the Dolphins. No Amari Cooper, no Jacoby Brissett, no Nick Chubb, no Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, you still have a couple of offensive linemen on there. You still have Myles Garrett down at 5. But when you're seeing those names, that's telling you it was a really, really rough game.
It was a rough go at it. But even on that list, like, I don't even see that kind of grade for Froholt. In that game, I was watching Christian Wilkins constantly cross his face and disrupt plays. So the fact he got a 76 was beyond me. I thought he really struggled coming in for Teller. Donovan Peoples-Jones, him being on there makes sense. He is what he's been for the last several weeks. He's 5 to 7 catches, 70 to 90 yards, And I'm excited to see what he's going to become when Deshaun Watson gets here, because I think there's another level to his game that's going to be unlocked. Grant Delpit being on the list, I thought he played well, stepped up in the run game. Still, he doesn't wrap up. Like, that dude throws shoulders left and right, and some weeks that goes good, and some weeks it doesn't. But yeah, you can just see by those grades, man. It was not a banner day down in South Beach.
Yep, without question. All right, this from Dog Pound Daily. 3 Browns that should not return in 2023. Number 3, Greedy Williams, cornerback. Number 2, Tommy Togiai. And number 1, John Johnson. So let's start with John Johnson. I don't know if they're not using him effectively, but I was excited when they signed him, and I think they're asking him to do some things that aren't in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, there was definitely a miscalculation of bringing all these safeties together who all kind of have similar skill sets and play well in the box. But at the end of the day, they need someone to play in the back end, and he's being asked to do a lot more communicating than we thought he was going to do when he was brought here originally. But I got to be honest, I have not been inspired by his play no matter where I've seen him on the field. He doesn't give the kind of effort you want to see out of someone who's supposed to be a leader. And if the Browns can save $9 million by cutting him June 1st, that's exactly what they're going to do, because you can't be paying him that kind of money to get that kind of production.
Yeah, you look at Greedy Williams, and he might have offers elsewhere. He might have shown enough. And again, I know Martin Emerson in his rookie year, I like what I see from him. I want to see more. I'm being very careful with these young guys because it seems like we always, like JOK, like Grant Delpit. So Emerson has been really good. I think he's going to be a really good player. Let's see him develop.
Yeah, it's really hard not to overvalue your own guys, especially when they show you something early on. The way Greg Newsome did last year. And he hasn't been bad this year, but we had more of an expectation that he was going to take another step. The same thing with JOK. So it's hard to kind of temper yourself, even though you're seeing these kind of things out of Martin Emerson, to, just slow your roll, let him develop at his own pace, and don't try to thrust him into the next tier up. But the Browns have done a decent job of stocking this team with young cornerbacks, which makes someone like Greedy kind of, expendable in the grand scheme of things. And with his shoulder issues, that's not something you want to kind of get into a long-term relationship with. So I think it's a pretty sure bet that they move on from him.
Let me ask you this. That we had a voicemailer a little bit earlier in the show that pointed to some of the draft picks that they've had that haven't panned out. And it's a fair point. It's a fair question. Your third-round picks, Elliott, Phillips, your second-round picks, Delpit, even JOK. There have been a lot of picks that have not panned out the last couple of years or haven't developed as quickly as you need them to.
Yeah, and they all kind of fit the same mold, right? These are highly athletic guys who scored really well physically, and they were just hoping they could implement them into their system. And for whatever reason, it hasn't been a good fit. And some positions they've drafted better than others. But if you look at defensive tackle, they've used a mid-round pick every year so far, and you're not getting anything in return on those guys. So it becomes frustrating. Someone like Phillips is an excellent physical specimen, can do all the things sideline to sideline, but he doesn't have a natural feel for the running game, so he finds himself out of position, and those guys become liabilities. So at some point, there has to be like a balance and check system to where you definitely want athletic guys, but they have to be able to play football. It's this draft thing that happens every year. So they win the underwear Olympics, but that always doesn't transfer to the field.
Yeah, if we were running an obstacle course, we'd be in great shape. Having said that, in fairness, they seem to have identified skill sets for cornerbacks. They need to apply that to linebacker and defensive tackle, and I think we're okay at that point.
Yeah, I think they also have to be willing to use a higher asset on some of those positions because this mid-round stuff, the defensive tackle is not getting it. So they need to take a stab a little further up in the draft.
Casey Kinnamon and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we will head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yeah, hi, this is Ron Cornett from here in Cleveland, and I'd just like to vent, I guess is the best word for it. Our offensive line today against the Dolphins played like a bunch of chumps. People was on him before he got the ball, and our defense, with the exception of 3 or 4 players, just didn't want to play. I saw him trotting after guys going down the sideline and just like, oh, well, he's 5 yards down the field in front of me. I can't catch up. There's professional ways of doing things, and then there's ways of not doing things. Jadeveon Clowney, my God, paid him all that money, and he's, I know he had an ankle injury, but for God's sake, he's just disappeared out there. It looks like Myles Garrett is the only guy on the line that really tries, and he's getting triple teamed, which leaves me to believe that there should be somebody else able to rush. And our offense is good, with the exception of the way the line played today. They're good. But, man, that defense, come on. You're getting paid a lot of money to be professionals and do your job. They're not doing their job. They're lazy. Well, thanks a lot. I'd say go Browns, woof, but I think our season's done. Let me know what you think. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. KC fan base is disillusioned, I think is the best word for it. Fair point, the line didn't play well. That's the first game, minus that first drive, where they kind of got beat up front. Both sides of the ball, really.
Yeah, harsh language. I don't know if I'd go so far to call them chumps, but the offensive line definitely had a bad day. And it just happened to coincide with, that was probably the worst game we've seen out of Nick Chubb, and, at least this season. He just didn't have his normal self to him. He didn't, and you put the fumble in there and kind of put all that together, and it's a bad formula. If Chubb's not going to be on his A game the same day the line has a bad day, and Brissett's internal clock wasn't proper, like there were several times he held the ball too long, that's just a recipe for disaster. And as far as the defensive side of the ball, like there is a lack of effort from some players, but some of it, is maybe they just aren't good enough. On the defensive line, you can try hard all you want, but if the level of talent isn't there, your competition is going to win every time. So I can't put it all on effort. And I think in just some areas, particularly in the defensive line, I just don't think they have the horses to run the race.
All right, this is kind of concerning because the Bills are up next. So that means Stephon Diggs, wide receiver, Gabriel Davis, Dawson Knox at tight end, Isaiah McKenzie, Josh Allen. I know he's got a sore elbow. They have a lot of passing weapons, but the Dolphins had a lot of passing weapons and ran for almost 200 yards. So how do you slow down the Bills' offensive attack?
Dave, I wish I had a better answer for you, but it's the snow. The snow could be the great equalizer in this. It might actually be able to slow the Buffalo Bills down. The truth is, if the Browns don't come with their A game, and let's be honest, they've only done that 1 out of 9 times on defense, then it's going to just be tough sledding. It is what it is. The Bills' offense is a juggernaut. And if Josh Allen's on his game, it's what are you going to do? And, the snow could definitely impact this game greatly. But the snow's not going to tackle running backs, and the snow's not going to stop Josh Allen from scrambling on third down. So at the end of the day, man, they got to strap up and they got to try to be as fundamentally sound as possible. We'll see how it plays out.
Now, Bills have lost their last 2, and there's 2 things. They do create turnovers defensively, but offensively they do turn the ball over. They have the 3rd, I think it's tied for the 3rd most turnovers in the NFL offensively, and Josh Allen has turned the ball over the last couple of games.
Yeah, a couple of those are boneheaded turnovers too, where he's not even just seeing defenders right in the lane. But I think the fact that they've lost 2 straight games, kind of hurts the Browns because they're not going to catch them, off guard or in a lull. Or the Bills are going to do everything possible they can to put the Browns away and establish themselves early. When it comes to Josh Allen, I mean, he's as physically gifted as any quarterback we've ever seen in this league, and we don't know the severity of his elbow injury. We know one thing: the Bills are going to try to protect him from getting hit by Myles Garrett. That's got to be a definite issue for them because their whole season rides on 17. If Josh Allen goes down, that team goes down with him. So they got to pressure him. And they do have to create turnovers. If the Browns don't win the turnover battle and the time of possession, there's no way they win this game.
How disappointing has it been that they haven't been able to? I mean, that the defense has preached turnovers for a couple of years. They have not been able to turn the ball over practically at all this year.
Yeah, there's been no consistency to it. You hope that when they get it going, it kind of turns on the faucet and the turnovers start to come, but they just don't have it. They, for whatever reason, the ball has not fell this way. Even teams that are fumbling snaps, the ball is just not bouncing right for the Browns to recover a couple and end up in the plus margin and turnovers. And in NFL, man, that's everything. Winning the turnovers is the most important stat you can have, and this defense just is not generating turnovers.
Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Casey, as always, man, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Hey, no problem.
All right, Casey Kinnamon. Make sure you check him out. Dog Pound Daily, really good coverage of the Browns. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow on Sports4CLE.